Hello everyone! Hope you're ready for another adventure, because today Wayne continues to read The One and Only Ivan, written by Catherine Applegate. Always remember here with Wayne Reads that if you would like to follow along with the story, all you have to do is hit the CC button right below and you'll be able to follow along with the words. Now, in the last time that we read The One and Only Ivan, we had a visitor that had a very rough time, so I wanted to invite her back again. Would you help me in welcoming Ruby back? Perfect. Hey Ruby, thank you for coming back to enjoy another few chapters with us. Hopefully, we'll be able to have a better time. Okay? Ruby's all set. Hope you are too. Let's jump in. A Perfect Life. Gorilla babies and elephant babies and human babies are not so different, except that a gorilla gets to spend the day riding on his mother's back, like a cowboy on a horse. It's a pretty great system from the baby's point of view. Slowly and carefully, a young gorilla begins to venture farther and farther from the safety of his mother's arms. He learns the skills he will need as an adult. How to make a nest of branches, weave them tightly, or they will fall apart in the middle of the night. How to beat your chest. Cup your palms to amplify the sound. How to go vining from tree to tree. Don't let go. How to be kind, be strong, and be loyal. Growing up gorilla is like any other kind of growing up. You make mistakes, you play, you learn. You do it all over again. It was, for a while, a perfect life. One day, a still day when hot air hummed, the humans came. After they captured my sister and me, they put us in a cramped, dark crate that smelled of urine and fear. Somehow, I knew that in order to live, I had to let my old life die. But my sister could not let go of her home. It held to her like a vine, stretching across the miles, comforting, strangling. We were still in our crate when she looked at me without seeing, and I knew that the vine had finally snapped. The temporary human. It was Mac who pried open the crate. Mac who bought me. Mac who raised me like a human baby. I wore diapers. I drank from a bottle. I slept in human beds, sat in human chairs, listened while human words swarmed around me like angry bees. Mac had a wife back then. Helen was quick to laugh, but quick to anger too, especially when I broke something, which was often. Here is what I broke while I lived with Mac in heaven. Here is what I broke when I lived with Mac and Helen. 1 crib, 46 glasses, 7 lamps, 1 couch, 3 shower curtains, 3 curtain rods, 1 blender, 1 TV, 1 radio, 3 toes, my own. I broke the blender when I squeezed 3 tubes of toothpaste and a bottle of glue into it. I broke my toes attempting to swing from a lamp fixture on the ceiling. I broke 46 glasses. Well, it turns out there are many ways to break a glass. Every weekend, Mac and Helen took me in their convertible to a fast food restaurant where they ordered me French fries and a strawberry shake. Mac loved to see the expression on the cashier's face when he drove up and said, "Could I have some extra ketchup for my kid?" I went to baseball games, to the grocery store, to a movie theater, even to a circus. They didn't have a gorilla. I rode a little motorbike, blew out on birthday candles. My life as a human was a glamorous one. although my parents, traditional sorts, would not have approved. In my new life as a human, I was well tended. I ate lettuce leaves with Thousand Island dressing and caramel apples and popcorn with butter. My belly ballooned. But hunger, like food, comes in many shapes and colors. At night, lying alone in my poo pajamas, I felt hungry for the skilled touch of a grooming friend, or the cheerful grumps of a play fight, or the easy safety of nearby troops foraging through shadows. Remember what happened to Tag, I told myself? Don't think about the jungle. Still, sometimes I lay awake, wishing for the warmth of another just like me, asleep in a night nest of tender prayer plant leaves. I liked having sips of soda poured into my mouth, like a bubbling waterfall. But every now and then, I longed to search for a tender stalk of arrowroot, to feel the tease of mango just out of reach. One day, Helen came home with something large and flat, wrapped in brown paper. "Look what I bought today," she said excitedly as she tore off the paper. "A painting to go over the living room couch." "Fruit in a bowl," Max said with a shrug. "Big deal." "This is fine art. It's called still life," Helen explained. "I think it's lovely." I dashed over to examine the painting, marveling at the colors and shapes. "See?" said Mac's wife. "Ivan likes it." "Ivan likes to roll up poop and throw it at squirrels," Max said. I couldn't take my eyes off the apples and bananas and grapes in the picture. They looked so real, so inviting, so edible. I reached to touch a grape and Helen slapped my hand. "Bad boy, Ivan. Don't touch." She jerked her thumb at Mac. "Honey, go get a hammer and a nail, would ya?" While Mac and Helen were busy in the living room, I wandered into the kitchen. A cake covered in thick chocolate frosting sat on the counter. I like cake. I love it, in fact. But it wasn't eating I was thinking about. It was painting. The frosted peaked and dripped like waves on a tiny pond. It looked rich and gooey, dark and smooth. It looked like mud. I scooped a handful of frosting, and I scooped on another. I headed to the refrigerator door. It was perfect, an empty white canvas. The frosting wasn't easy to work with, as jungle mud, but it was stickier and, of course, more tempting to eat. But I kept at it. I scraped off every last bit of frosting. I may have eaten a cake, too. I don't remember what I was trying to paint. A banana, most likely, I suppose. I knew I was going to get in trouble. But at that moment, I didn't care. I wanted to make something, anything, the way I used to. I wanted to be an artist again. Punishment. I soon learned that humans can screech even louder than monkeys. After that, I was never allowed in the kitchen. Back in those days, the Big Top Mall was smaller. It had a pony ride, a wooden train that bustled around the parking lot, a few bedraggled parrots, and a surly spider monkey. But when Mac bought me a baby gorilla dressed in a crisp tuxedo to the mall, everything changed. People came from far and wide to have their pictures taken with me. They brought me blocks and a toy guitar. They held me in their laps. Once, I even held a baby in mine. She was small and slippery. Bubbles flowed from her lips. She squeezed my finger. Her ear was puffy and padded. Her legs bowed like bent twigs. I made a face. She made a face. I grunted. She grunted. I was so afraid she would fall, I squeezed her tightly, and her mother yanked her away. I wonder if my mother ever worried about dropping us. I will always held on. But that's easier to do when your mother is furry. Human babies are an ugly lot. But their eyes are like our babies' eyes. Too big for their faces and for the world. One day, After many weeks of loud talking, Helen packed a bag and slammed the front door and never came back. I don't know why. I never know the why of humans. That night, I slept with Mac in his bed. My old nests were woven of leaves and sticks and shaped like his bathtub, cool green cocoons. Mac's bed, like mine, was flat hot, without sticks or stars. Still, he made a sleeping sound like the rumble my father used to make when all was well, a sound from deep inside his belly. My place. Mac grew sullen. I grew bigger. I became what I was meant to be. Too large for chairs, too strong for hugs, too big for human life. I tried to stay calm, to move with dignity. I did my best to eat daintily, but human ways are hard to learn, especially when you're not human. When I saw my domain, I was thrilled, and who wouldn't be? It had no furniture to break, no glasses to smash, no toilets to drop Mac's keys into. It even had a tire swing. I was relieved to have my own place. Somehow, I didn't realize I'd be here quite so long. Now I drink Pepsi, eat old apples, watch reruns on TV. But many days I forget that I am supposed to be. Am I a human? Am I a gorilla? Humans have so many words, more than they truly need. Still, they have no name for what I am. Ruby is finally asleep. I watch her chest rise and fall. Bob, too, is snoring. But my mind is still racing. For perhaps the first time ever, I've been remembering. It's an odd story to remember, I have to admit. My story has a strange shape, a stunted beginning, and an endless middle. I count all the days I've lived with humans. Gorillas count as well as anyone. Although it's not a particularly useful skill to have in the wild. I've forgotten so many things, and yet I always know precisely how many days I've been in my domain. I take one of the magic markers Julie gave me. I make a small X, a small one, on my painted jungle wall. I make more X's, and more. I make an X for every day of my life with humans. My marks look like this. The rest of the night, I mark the days, and when I am done, my wall looks like this. Wow, those are a lot of X's. And so on, until there are 9,876 X's marching across my wall like a parade of ugly insects. It's almost morning when I hear steps. It's Mac. He has a strong, sharp smell. He weaves as he talks. He stands next to my domain. His eyes are red. He is staring out the window at the empty parking lot. Ivan, my man, he mumbles. Ivan, he presses his forehead on the glass. We've been through a lot, you and me. We don't see Mac for 2 days. When he returns, he doesn't talk about Stella. Mac says he is anxious to teach Ruby some tricks. He says the billboard is bringing in more visitors. He says it's time for a new beginning. All afternoon and into the evening, Mac works with Ruby. Ruby's feet are looped with rope so that she cannot run away. A huge chain hangs off her neck. Mac shows her Stella's ball, her pedestal, her stool. He introduces her to Snickers. When Ruby obeys Mac, he gives her a cube of sugar or a bit of dried apple. When he doesn't, he yells and kicks at the sawdust. When George and Julia arrive, Mac is still training Ruby. Julie sits on a bench and watches. She draws a little, but mostly she keeps her eyes on Ruby. Bob watches too. He's hiding in the corner of my domain under knot tag. It's raining outside. Bob does not like damp feet. Ruby trudges behind Mac, her head drooping. Endlessly they circle the ring. Sometime Mac slaps her flank with his hand. Suddenly, Ruby jerks to the stop. Mac pulls a chain, but Ruby refuses to move. Come on, Ruby, Mac is almost pleading. What is your problem? She is exhausted, I say to myself. That's the problem. Mac groans. Idiot elephant. Idiot human, Bob mutters. Walk, Ruby, I say, although she's too far away to hear me. Do what he says. Walk, Mac commands. Now. Ruby doesn't walk. She props her rump on the sawdust floor. I think maybe she's tired, Julia says. Mac wipes his forehead with the back of his arm. Yeah, I know. We're all tired. He pushes Ruby with the heel of his foot. She ignores him. George looks over from the food court where he is wiping off table. Mac, he yells, maybe you should call it a day. I'll close up. Mac yanks on Ruby's chain. She's as anchored as a tree trunk. He pulls her harder and falls to his knees. That does it, Mac yells. He brushes the salt off his jeans. I'm not playing around. Mac stops to his office, then returns. He's carrying a long stick. The gleaming hook on his end is almost beautiful, like a silver moon. It's a claw stick. Mac pokes Ruby with a sharp point. Not hard, just a touch. I can tell he wants to see how much it can hurt. I growl low in my throat. Ruby doesn't budge. She is gray, unmoving boulder. She closes her eyes for a moment. I wonder if she might have fallen asleep. I'm warning you, Mac says. He breathes out. He stares at the ceiling. Ruby makes a huffing sound. Fine, Mac says. You want to play it that way? He draws the claw stick back. No, Julia cries. I'm not going to hurt her, Mac says. I just want to get her attention. Bob snarls. Mac swings. The hook slices the air just a few inches above Ruby's head. See? Why you don't want to mess with me, Mac says. He draws the claw stick back again. Ruby jerks her head, flinging her trunk towards Mac. She makes a noise that she sends the sawdust scattering. It makes my glass shiver. It is the most dreadful mad I have ever heard. Ruby's trunk slaps into Mac. I don't see exactly where she strikes him. Somewhere below his stomach, I think. And I know he must be uncomfortable because Matt drops the claw stick and falls down to the ground and curls to a ball and howls like a baby. Direct hit, Bob says. Wow. Well, that is a lot for your first day training. But I hope that you feel better and Mac isn't going to be too mean for you moving forward. We'll see you on the next time, okay? See you, Ruby. We'll see you on the next time with Wayne Reads. Hope you take care. We'll see you on the next adventure. Bye-bye.